Let's talk about slates. Everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. Ding! And now on to our topic. Let's talk about slates. First of all, let me address the fact that when I first had this idea, I went back to our YouTube channel and sure enough, we did a video about this about 2+ years ago. Wow, this channel is almost 3 years old. That said, I have some expanded comments on the topic, so let's dive in. First, let's just get existential. Why do we need slates? I mean, if you're submitting through Actors Access, they already know your name, they know what role you're reading for, they probably know your location and your agent, and if they want to know your height or what you've done in previous work, they can go and look at your reel and your height and your stats on your profile. So why? Well, quite frankly, I don't have a good answer. Nothing that reveals any really amazing truth here. Just wish I knew myself. Now, I do know that when it comes to the specifics like height, yes, they could just click over to your profile and see all of your stats there, but they don't have time for that. I mean, think about when a friend of yours sends you a link to something and you click on it, but then you have to click on something else, and now suddenly there's another thing you have to click on, and oh, now you have to enter your email or your location. You're done with it after one click. Likewise, casting directors who are watching so many tapes in a given day would get very tired of clicking over to each actor's individual profile just to learn their height, when it would be so simple to have them say it in their slate. So hopefully that gives you perspective on why some of the information is requested in slates. In a related story, this is also why, if they're requesting your reel, it's not enough to just have it attached to your profile on Actors Access. You would need to actually upload it to your submission for them to be able to easily access it. But back to slates. Since we can't really answer that existential question of the why, let's change gears and get into the mechanics of the slate itself. Now, as you're probably aware by now, every casting director in the world has secretly gotten together to make sure that none of them ask for the same style of slate. And then they cleverly spread out their taping instructions over 17 paragraphs of information in their audition notice. So after procuring a treasure map, an oracle, and a rare, priceless Amazonian amulet, you'll finally be able to decipher the instructions of what to say in your slate and how to frame it. Some like shoulders up, some like full body, some like both in the same slate. Some ask for your profiles in close-up. Sometimes the profiles are in full body. Sometimes they want to see your hands front and back. So be sure to pay attention to all of those specifics in your slating instructions. And when it comes to what you have to say in the slate, I want to park the video right here for a few seconds and talk about those details they might ask for. When it's simple, like name, height, and location, then keep it simple. Brooke and I had dinner with a casting director just this past week, and they told us that they recently saw a slate that should have only been 5 seconds or less, and it was over 40 seconds in length. I'm not even sure how that's possible. This is not, I repeat, this is not your opportunity to be seen. That is to say, more screen time in your slate does not give you a better chance of being considered for the role. It's actually the opposite. If you're ignoring the instructions from the casting director and turning what should be a 5-second slate into a 45-second slate, it's actually working against you. It could be a liability. It could actually cost you the opportunity. So don't waste their time. Now let's talk about when they ask for things like age. Are you willing to change your appearance or shave your beard? Do you have any conflicts with the shoot date? And are you willing to work local to the city they're shooting in? For all these questions, you should take great care in how you answer them. For instance, when it comes to the age question, they cannot require you to answer that question if you're over 18. If you're under 18, yes, they can ask for that clarification or that verification. But if you're over 18, just say over 18. Side note, if it's a beer or alcohol commercial, you do have to be 25 or older than 25. One of those two. So they can ask you in that age range to specify your age. But again, outside of those alcohol commercials, if you're over 18, just state in your slate over 18. Because if you fall into the trap of actually answering that question and you look 19, but you're actually 30, if you say, I'm 30 in your slate, psychologically, you could take yourself out of the mix because now that they know your actual age and they're pairing you up with someone who is actually 19, you might start to subconsciously look too old for the role. And this is one of the reasons why they can't require you to answer that question. Now, if you're in person for this audition and the client or the director says, hey, how old are you? Don't feel like you have to answer there either. Instead, you can get playful and say something like, how old do I look? And then if they come back with an actual age, then you can sort of have fun with that dialogue, but never feel that pressure to actually answer the question, again, unless you're under 18. Now, switching to availability, if you have hard conflicts in the shoot window, then do not lie. State your hard conflicts, or if they ask you to put those in the submission notes, do it there, but just don't lie. Now, if you have soft conflicts, like, oh, well, in the middle of your shoot window, I have a grooming appointment for my dog. Well, if that's movable, if you can cancel that, then don't even bother bringing that up in your slate because, yeah, if you book the job, you're canceling that grooming appointment for your dog. And by you explaining the whole thing of like, well, I have this grooming appointment, but, if necessary, I can move it, then you're just wasting more time and you're one of those people turning a 5-second slate into a 45-second slate. Just state the facts as succinctly as possible, unlike my videos. Now, regarding your appearance, do not answer that question from a standpoint of fear. If you say, no, I'm not willing to shave or change my appearance, yeah, you might take yourself out of the mix for that role. There might be a very real reason that they need you to be clean shaven or have a different color hair or a different length of hair. But don't say yes out of fear that you won't book the role unless you acquiesce to every one of their requests. And then you book the role and you get to set and they're cutting your hair or shaving your beard or coloring your hair, and suddenly you're resentful for the booking itself and kicking yourself as to why you agreed to it. Or worse, you're mad at production for taking you up on your offer to change your appearance. So just answer truthfully. And lastly, if there's a question about, hey, are you willing to work local to the city they're shooting in? Be very careful about your answer. Personally, I have a big issue with stating anything in my slate that would be considered contractually binding. In fact, when it comes to the appearance question, I oftentimes will say, I'm willing to talk about shaving or changing my appearance. Yes, that does kick the can down the road and it might frustrate casting directors and or agents. Sorry to both of you if you're watching. I get it. I get why you're asking that question, but I'm an actor. And that's why I have an agent, is to negotiate contractually binding things. And so many actors do not understand the implications of what working local means versus modified local versus neither one of those. And if the actor isn't sure, they should not be saying yes or no to questions that will have implications in the contract later. Your agent is there to help you with that, to negotiate these terms on your behalf. And so while it may not be casting's preference for you to slow the process down by being ambiguous in your answer to those questions, if you do not understand the full implications of these terms, of these questions, then do not proceed until you know for sure what it is you're saying in your slate. And so coming back to this question of working local, the simplest thing to do is just to state where you are local to. So if a project is shooting in Nashville and they're wondering if actors can be local to Nashville, I just slate, hi, I'm Matthew Cornwell, I'm 6'2", I'm local to Atlanta. Full stop. I don't even address the Nashville question. Again, I understand that some casting directors probably got really tight sphincters with me saying that in this video, but I don't want to be contractually bound to something that I potentially don't understand. Now, I do understand these implications, and here's the thing. By saying I am local to Atlanta, I am answering the question, because SAG-AFTRA's position is that you can only be local to one city. So by me saying I am local to Atlanta, I am therefore not local to Nashville, Birmingham, Charlotte, Charleston, Orlando, New Orleans, etc. Okay, so now that we've talked about what you say in a slate, let's talk about how you present that information. Many actors end up recording their slate as if it's a proof of life video. Hi, I'm Matthew Cornwell, I'm 6'2", I live in Atlanta, Georgia. and I'm willing to work local. They're so worried about saying all the correct information in the correct order. Side note, who cares if it's in the exact correct order, especially if they're asking for 17 pieces of information? It's okay if you flip-flop 2 of those details. And so actors end up looking stiff or robotic because they're so preoccupied with those pieces of information in their head. Hi, I'm Matthew Cornwall. I'm 6'2". I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm willing to work as a local hire. Relax. Calm down. It's just a friggin' slate. So please do your best to sound normal, to stand normal. I've seen the weirdest postures and stances when I've zoomed out to show an actor's full body in their slate. Does this look normal? Hi, I'm Matthew Cornwall. I'm 6'2", and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm a little teapot. Like an alien trying on a skin suit for the first time. Does this look normal? Does this look human? And before you ask, should I slate in character? There's no real global catch-all answer for this. If it's a commercial, you should almost always slate in the most upbeat, content version of yourself. Don't overdo it like I used to and try to be like a salesperson as you walk in the room, because then it just looks smarmy and fake. If it's for TV and film, it's a more nuanced question. Because let's say your character is really creepy, maybe don't slate so creepy. I'm Matthew Cornwall. I'm 6'2", and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And I am willing to work local. Especially if it's in person, because you might scare the people on the other side of the table. Was that too much? But the most generic answer I can give is use your own taste and judgment. Hopefully by this point in your career, you feel a little bit more discerning about whether you should be a hint of the character in your slate, all of the character in your slate, especially if there's an accent associated with that performance, or whether you should just be yourself. A clue that can help you answer this question of whether you should be in character or not is if they've also additionally asked you to share a fun fact about yourself or tell a quick story after your slate. In those cases, definitely slate as yourself, not the character. And when they ask for that story or that fun fact, there's no perfect answer. Graduates of the Sam Christensen process do have the secrets to creating the most memorable stories in the shortest amount of time. But even if you haven't taken the workshop, just remember that it's not so much about the actual details you share as much as they're just trying to replace that in-person energy. They want to get to know you before action and after cut, since they don't get to schmooze with you while you walk into the room or in between takes or as you're leaving the room. So say whatever you feel led to say and don't overthink it. Just don't give a 90-second story when they specifically ask for a story no more than 20 seconds. That happens a lot. Oh, and another point about how you present yourself in your slate. Please don't hate yourself. That sounds like an odd way to put it, but so many actors, when preparing to shoot the slate, start cursing, shaking their head, rolling their eyes, and overall just complaining about how much they hate slates, especially when they have to give those fun facts and stories. And it comes across like you hate yourself. Very revealing. To me, it implies that you think there's this difference between the you that showed up in your takes and the you that is in the slate. That suddenly doing the slate feels like you're naked, that you're being exposed, when an actor's job is to expose raw humanity in your takes. So arguably, your takes should be just as quote unquote naked as your slate. Bottom line is I just don't understand why actors hate slates so much. It's not a big deal. I'm Matthew Cornwall, I'm 6'2", I live in Atlanta. I don't know a fun fact about me. Why do you want to know any facts about me? I'm just a desperate actor, so just give me the job. I'll tell you whatever you want to hear, you know? I'll exaggerate, I'll lie. I just want a job. Hire me. You shouldn't hate the opportunity to show one more piece of you. If you do, you might want to unpack that. And speaking of packaging, I'm going to go back to a metaphor I used in the previous video we did about slates. In a nutshell, if you think of your audition as the product, then your slate becomes part of the packaging. The rest of the packaging would be following instructions on how to label the file, how to compress the file, where to send the file, and the deadline. So if this is your first impression with a given casting director, don't you think the packaging matters? I mean, if your product is really tasty jam, then you could just put a spoonful of jam in a plastic grocery bag, hand it to them. But wouldn't you rather put that tasty jam into a really cool mason jar with a customized lid, maybe with some really cool calligraphy with your name, and then in a nice gift bag with some tissue paper that really complements your personality by packaging it this way? The metaphor starts to break down, but you get the point. This is your career, and every piece of it should matter to you if you want to sustain it over a lifetime. The product, the packaging, and everything else that goes with it. Because that attention to detail will serve you well, just as your lack of attention to detail could end up costing you opportunities. Okay, so if any of this raises additional questions, please drop a comment below. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.